Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Solution Challenge 2022 kickoff event. And Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year to you. How are you doing, Komal?
I am doing good. I'm so excited to be part of this event. I feel like I wasn't nervous until I see the backstage live sign, and now I'm a little anxious and nervous, but I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. It's so great to have you. And we can introduce ourselves and then we're gonna get started. But yeah, I'm Erica Hanson. I lead the Google Developer Student Clubs program globally. And I've been at Google for 15 years. I'm based in New York, and I love working on the Solution Challenge and seeing the projects that students all around the world build. It's very inspiring to hear about your journeys and what you're solving for and why. So really happy to be here. And I have Komal with me. Very excited that you joined us. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Komal Sandhu. I am the global program lead for the Google Developer Groups program. I've been doing that for about a year and a half, but actually before this, I worked on the Google Developer Student Clubs program with Erica. She hired me at Google 3.5, almost 4 years ago. And I got to be part of Solution Challenge when it first kicked off, and it's truly such an incredible global opportunity for students to come together and use technology to solve local problems. I'm just thrilled to be a part of this opportunity and so excited to have a little time with all of you, but also with Erica. So thank you. That's a little bit about me. I'm sure we'll continue to get to know each other better through this event.
Definitely. And actually, we'd love to get to know you now. If you could share in the chat, go to the stage chat. You can click on chat on the right and click on stage and share a little about yourself. It'd be great to know your name and what country that you're dialing in from. I know we have folks all over the world. So Lena from Tunisia, that's awesome. Where are folks calling in from? So I'm based in New York right now in the US. Hi, Joshua. Can't wait to participate. That's awesome. Really excited to see all your projects. Are there any data science enthusiasts? Yeah, this is great. Just keep using the chat. Let us know also where you're based out of. So folks from Canada, India, Germany, India. That's awesome. SoCal, nice. That's where I'm from Southern California.
I see Egypt in the house. We got Malaysia, Pakistan. Very cool.
Nice. This is great. Yeah, we have folks from all over. So we're going to be talking about the Solution Challenge. Continue to share in the chat where you're all based out of, and I'm going to share my screen and walk through some slides with all of you just to talk about the Solution Challenge. So here we go. So we have a new design this year, new look and feel. So hopefully you like the change for this year. But really excited to introduce the Solution Challenge. This launched last week on January 11th. And so really excited to kick this off. And I hope you all register and join us. You have the next few months to build your project. So we're going to be going through the details about the Solution Challenge. You're going to hear from a couple great speakers, Merve and Kyle, who are going to talk more about the UN goals and give you a product overview. And definitely we'll have some time for questions. So get ready to, share your questions with us at the end. You can put them in the Q&A chat. You see a link for Q&A. That's where you can start adding your questions. But let's get to the video to introduce the Solution Challenge. Awesome. So that's our kickoff video. Feel free to share that video. It's on YouTube, and invite other friends you might have who might want to take part in the solution challenge. So, welcome officially to the kickoff event. Your hosts are Komal and myself, and we'll give you an overview of what to expect with the solution challenge. So, the agenda, Komal and I will give you an overview, and then Merve will be joining us. She is based in Turkey, and she's going to be giving an overview of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Then we have Kyle Paul. He's based in the US. He'll be giving you a Google product overview. For this competition, you'll be using Google technology. So he'll talk about all the different Google products that you might use, and also how you might think about combining, more than one product together. And then we'll all come together and we'll have a Q&A. We'll all answer questions. And then there's a networking part of all of this. So you'll be able to meet other students all around the world and talk about technology or specific SDGs, or maybe form teams. So you'll have some time to chat with other folks at the end. So let's get started. So what is Google Developer Student Clubs? Just in case you saw this, on social and weren't really sure what this was all about, I wanted to give you a bit of context. So Google Developer Student Clubs are university-based community groups for students who are interested in Google developer technologies. They grow their knowledge in a peer-to-peer learning environment, and they're learning about Google technology, but they're also building. And it's not just about learning. We also want you to put what you've learned into practice and build something, and make an impact through that process, and think about how you can solve problems and support your community through that process. And so there's over 1,500 clubs in 113 countries around the world. So the program has really grown over the last few years, and definitely encourage you to join a Google Developer Student Club on your campus if you haven't already, or near you. And we do actually open up applications every year around April 1st. If you do want to apply to be a leader, there's a chance to do that in April. So that's Google Developer Student Clubs. What is the Solution Challenge? So this is a competition that we run once a year, and students around the world basically build solutions for problems in their communities using Google technology. This year, we're focused on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. But it's really about putting what you've learned into practice and building something. And Komal, I know you were running the Solution Challenge before when you were on the team. What makes you excited about the Solution Challenge? Why do you think it's important for students to take part in it?
Yeah. First off, I just watching this video, and I got a little bit of goosebumps as we started talking about it. I'm getting flashbacks to my time with GDSC and kicking off the Solution Challenge. And as you ask that, right, like what makes me excited about it? Why does it matter? The first thing that comes to mind is, and I'm going to ask a question to the group. So everyone in the call, how many of you want a job in tech? I used to ask this question all the time when I used to give talks. Like, how many of you want a job in tech when you graduate? I'm assuming many of you are students. Answer in the chat. Just say yes if you want a job in tech. I see people sharing their LinkedIns. I see a thank you, me. All right, good. See, perfect. I promise this is going to make sense. So we see a ton of people saying, who wants a job in tech? Me, right? I felt that same way. And we asked this question to a ton of students. So when Erica and I started working together, we traveled to India. We spent some time in sub-Saharan Africa. We spent a lot of time with students, with faculty, and asked that question, right? And everyone consistently was like, well, obviously, like, I want a job in tech. It's this one industry that's continuing to grow. We know a lot about it. We also don't know a lot about it. But then we asked a follow-up question. And we asked the question, how many of you feel that you have everything that you need to get that job in tech? And what we started noticing, so we would ask this question and everyone's hands would go up. And then we asked the follow-up question, do you feel prepared? Do you feel like you have everything you need to get that job? And suddenly all the arms would go down. And what that told us was a fundamental challenge in the tech industry, particularly on higher ed campuses. There is a gap between theory and practice. And if we want to genuinely help students, right, student developers, we need to think about how we bridge that gap between theory and practice. You go to school, you go to classes, you learn a lot about different languages, different technologies, but how do you actually apply them, right? Simultaneously, we started talking to folks about what mattered to them. And consistently, social impact was top of mind. Students were talking about what they saw in their communities, what they saw with their friends, with their family, their teachers, their faculty, and different challenges folks were facing, and wanted to use technology for good. And so with Erica and I, we, sat with our team, we brainstormed with folks at Google and said, well, how can we create a platform to bring what's important to students across the world and set them up for success at the same time to equip them more for the tech industry? And that's where the solution challenge came from. And to be honest, like 3 years later, when Erica asked me, hey, why am I excited about it? Because I genuinely think the mission of this challenge is so profound, right? And still stands true and gets me really stoked about it because it's an opportunity to set students up for success by getting your hands dirty with technology and actually doing some good with it, right? Looking at your community around and saying, hey, what's going on in the world around me? How can I use technology to make that better? How can I make people's lives better? Really long-winded way, Erica, of sharing why I'm excited about this, but this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. And I think it is to, the hundreds of people that are on this call today as well.
Definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's important context and for all of us to be thinking about, why. And I think this is a cool way to bring the community together globally. All of us are collectively working at the same time on making an impact, building and sharing what we've learned with other people in the community and building something to solve local problems, local initiatives, UN goals. So that's really helpful. And speaking of UN goals, that is the theme once again this year. We did poll everybody last year, and I think it was 88% said they did want to focus on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals again. So thanks. We really do listen to your feedback every year. So we're excited to focus on the UN goals again. You're going to be hearing more details from Merve about how to use these goals as inspiration and think about solving for each of these. But there's, they're really broad, but also very important and impactful. So think about which one really resonates with you. There's quality education, good health and well-being, some really important goals here. Komal, which one would you choose if you were building a project?
Yeah, I think, what's interesting is I would probably start, before I even look at the goals, I would probably start by surveying people around me, right? Because each of us in the call are in a different place. And I think the UN goals create this framework that are going to cover everything, but we need to combine them with the reflecting on what's going on in our community, right? So for me, I am based in New York City. Right. I live right in Manhattan. So how I would approach it is I would talk to the people in my surrounding life, right? Hey, what are challenges you're facing? What are blocks, right? Right now, a very big challenge that's happening in New York is you've got a lot of local businesses that are shutting down because of the pandemic. So then I would take that, right, and see, okay, that's what I'm seeing around in my community. And I would go to the UN goals and say, okay, which one does this resonate with? Right? So you see an element of poverty. There's also a lot of homelessness happening in New York City. So I think combining the UN goals with what's going on in your community and asking those questions. Where are you experiencing friction in your life? And start with your friends, start with your faculty, start with, your community, seeking to understand. And take it from there. But I think for me personally, like the two things I've noticed a lot within the New York community is there's a lot of homelessness as a result of COVID, and there's a lot of businesses being shut down. So my gut would probably go directly to kind of like the no poverty component because I live right in Midtown Manhattan and you see a lot of homelessness. And so I would be curious to figure out like how can we help support those groups.
That's a great tip. I think that's really helpful in thinking through this. Asking people around you, learning more about your community, and seeing what really resonates with you, and then from there, looking at the goals here. So I think that's a great idea. So let's talk about the timeline and get into some of the logistics. So we kicked off last week. So you really have the next few months to be learning together with your community and building. And so the submissions, when you actually submit your project, that is between March 15th and March 31st. I've gotten some questions through email about the difference between registration and submission. So they are different. So right now we're asking folks to register. Basically, fill out this form, and you, my teammates will add the link in here to the main website where you go on the homepage and basically register. And that way we can start inviting you to events like this. We'll email with you any updates and some resources. So that's the registering. And that's what we encourage each teammate to do. You don't have to do it as a team. Each individual can register, and then we'll send you some resources. Separate to that is working on your project and then actually submitting the project. And that's a different form. And that happens between March 15th and March 31st. Then a team of, last year it was Google software engineers. We'll be doing that again this year. They were really excited to review your projects. That happens in April. We're reviewing projects. And then we get down to the top 50 globally, the top 50 projects. And we're going to be announcing that, putting it on our website. And those top 50 teams will get mentorship from Google in the month of May. Our teammates on the accelerator team, they work with startups. That team is going to be supporting in that process of connecting those project teams with Google mentors and other experts to help you improve your projects. And then those 50 teams will resubmit their projects. We'll review them again on our side, and we're going to announce and get down to the top 10 teams, and that's mid-June. And once we announce that publicly, we'll be writing a blog post about those 10 projects. We're going to be announcing the top 3 winners live at the demo day event, and that's going to be end of July, July 28th on the Thursday. That's where all the top 10 teams will demo their projects. And then we have a team of judges who are going to pick the top 3 winners. We'll announce those live, and we'll also have a People's Choice Award once again. So that's the full phase. Pretty similar to last year, but really excited about it. I especially love the top 50 phase. We have projects from all over the world. And it's really exciting to see them get some mentorship and then get down to the top 3. So we'll talk about prizes in just a minute. I'm just going to share my screen and show you the website. So this is, a great resource for all of you. This here is where you can register, and we have more information about, the prizes, which I'll talk about shortly. We do have some more details on the timeline, just kind of walking you through the different phases of what you can do, the life cycle essentially of building a project. There's some information on the United Nations goals for some inspiration, also some example projects. And we also have some resources in here, some videos, and also videos from past events in the past that we ran for the competition last year. We also have demo day links to demo days from the past, so you can see how the top 10 projects in the past demoed their projects. And then here's a page of just all the past winners. You can watch their videos and learn more about those. And then we have FAQs, which I'll talk about shortly, and then terms and conditions. So just want to make sure all of you have seen kind of what's there. And I encourage you to go back and when you're free and just take a deeper look at the website, because this has a lot of information. So let's get back to this. So that's the timeline. Next, wanted to talk about judging criteria. So we break it into impact and technology. So impact is 60 points, technology is 40. And so really a few points I'll just make about this. I encourage you to read this afterwards, but we really do want to make sure that you're solving for a specific United Nation goal. So I really encourage you to take a look at the site and also let us know which target within that you're looking to solve. Merve will talk a bit more about this shortly. but really want you to solve a specific goal and make it clear that you are solving for that United Nations goal. We also look for, is there evidence of a next step? Is there a plan to take it further? What more would you do after this competition is over? We want to see what's next. Are you planning to, would you think about scaling it? Would you think about adding some new features? Also, user feedback is really important to the project development process. And especially if you make this into a product eventually, user feedback is critical. So we we do want you to get some feedback from users and then let us know, what did you do based on that feedback from folks. And I know it's COVID right now, and so we don't want you to go in person and start meeting and asking people. This, you can do this process virtually. You can have a phone call with someone, you can get on a video call and walk people through your project and get some feedback from folks. You can ask family, you can ask friends. But what we're really aiming at here is that you are taking the time to get some feedback from folks and then making a change based on that, listening to the user feedback. And then with technology, we really want to understand what technology, what Google products you used and why. And we'll just be looking at how you implemented those different components to solve the solution. And we do ask you to make a demo video. There's a lot of demo videos online as well if you want to get some inspiration, including from the blog post last year. But this is a 2-minute video, and you'll basically be walking through how the user would interact with the solution. And you want to talk about what Google technologies that you used, and basically walk through your project. And so those are a couple high level points. Komal, is there anything in here that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, I think just for context, right, in regards to thinking about why this criteria matters, bringing it back to our original North Star, we're trying to bridge the gap between theory and practice, right? Something that's very top of mind for students is being better equipped for the tech industry. Part of how we came up with this criteria was collecting feedback and input from industry experts, right? To say, hey, when you're hiring someone, what are you looking for? And specifically, it's these, what you're going to notice is a lot of this criteria correlates with the software development cycle, right? The problem identification is something that we start with. But after that, you're thinking about there's an analysis component, right? There's a design sprint component where you're ideating, you're actually implementing. We want you to connect with folks, get feedback. We want you to, think about after, like, how are you going to maintain this? How are you going to sustain this? How are you going to scale it, right? So we really want you to use this as an opportunity to go through that software development cycle, right? And really build the actual skills necessary. So let's say hypothetically, you submit something to the solution challenge, fast forward, you have an interview for something, you showcase your portfolio and, hey, here is a solution that I built. We want you to confidently be able to speak to from A to Z, well, this is a problem that I identified, right? And here's how I identified that problem. This is the solution we recommended, and here's why. We actually went through a stage where we ideated with a bunch of people and we approached it in different ways. This is why we chose this. It's being able to come up with a solution, but speak to the why behind it very clearly, very confidently. That showcases your actual skill development, not just a conceptual understanding, right? And so that would be kind of something that I would add in this judging criteria. I know it seems very specific, and you're like, just bring it back to the why, right? Are you building and being able to display the skills necessary to identify a problem and build a solution using technology as the foundation? Right?
That's great. Yeah, that's really important to think about the why. I think you'll learn a lot through this process. Even forming your team and thinking through the life cycle of the project, thinking about what you want to solve for, what technology you use. I definitely encourage you to just reflect as you're going through that. I think that'll be really helpful. I mean, this is something you can also add to your resume in the future. That you built a project. Whether or not you get into the top 10 or top 50, this is a really great learning opportunity. So next, wanted to share a bit about the prizes. So the top 50 teams are going to be getting mentorship, as I mentioned, also a T-shirt and a certificate. So we'll be mailing you a T-shirt. And then the top 10 finalists will be demoing their projects live during demo day, and we'll also be creating a blog post, and there's going to be some swag. Then the contest finalists, so that's number 4 to 10 of the top 10 teams will basically be getting a cash prize. So that's $1,000 per student. And so there can be 4 students per team, so that wouldn't be more than 4,000 per team, but 1,000 for each student. And then the top 3 winners. So basically, they'll be getting $3,000 each. And as I mentioned, you can have up to 4 people, so it wouldn't exceed more than 12,000 per team. So those are the prizes this year. We've switched them up a little bit based on feedback. And yeah, really excited to see who the top 10 teams and beyond are. Let's keep moving forward because I really want to get to the United Nations goals. These are just some of the resources I was pointing out on the website. I definitely encourage you to watch these videos. So Arman, our friend, he has created a couple great videos that'll walk you through the United Nations goals and also how to build a project. So I definitely encourage you all to watch those videos. And we also so that's a bit of inspiration. Another resource as well, we have a Google Dev library. So this is folks from the Google developers communities around the world, and they've actually put some of their code up here, projects that they've built in the past. So this is another resource to take a look, and it's like basically connects to their GitHub. Feel free to use this resource to utilize some of that code, and also you can add your own as well. And if any of you submit some of your projects on here in the future, we'll definitely be featuring you in a solution challenge section. But this is just another resource from other folks around the community who wanted to share some of their projects online. Lastly, I already mentioned this, we have some of the demo day videos. I definitely encourage you to take a look at some of the demos from other students in the past if you're curious what those are like. But, really we want you to build your own. So don't worry about replicating some of those projects. Really think about what resonates with you, what is relevant to your community, and definitely go from there. And you also have your community events. These are a couple of the ones that we saw on the GDSC event platform. University of Toronto is running some workshops, and Cornell University. And so join your community events, the GDSC at your campus or near you, and they'll also support you through that journey. So now we want to pass it over to Merve, who's going to give an overview of the UN SDGs. So we'll call Merve to the stage. She is a community manager on our team. Been working with us on GDSC for a while now. So it's great to see you, Merve.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Merve.
Hi.
Great to see you all.
Great to see you too. I love the background. You're in a Google office, right?
Yeah, I'm in the office. So yeah, today is the office day. So yeah.
That's amazing. I'm
Awesome.
so jealous. Oh, it looks so nice.
Yeah, it's good actually. So yeah. So
Awesome.
I'm super excited for today. So yeah, I can start.
Yeah, go for it. We'll pass it to you, and you can share your slides. But over to you, and folks, definitely continue to use the stage chat to just get to know each other, and also Q&A. You can add your questions there. So over to you, Merve. Thanks.
Thank you. So, hi everyone, I'm Merve. I've been managing Google Developer Student Clubs communities regionally, and glad to see you all here. I see the crowd, I'm so happy about it. And today I'm gonna talk about 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. As you know that we have an urgent mission to complete by 2030, and I really need your help. And we need to fight global inequality and extreme poverty and respect our planet. So join Solution Challenge 2022 to find out how you can use your creativity, software development skills, and power to help us achieve those goals. And let me just brief you, talk about the agenda. And today, like definitely, we'll just talk about some 17 development goals and also the 5 Ps of the sustainable development goals and key areas for action. Probably you're asking for it, like, how can I take an action now? So yeah, this is the time for you. So I was just saying that we have to use our creative superpowers to achieve the global goals. Although the Earth is just a tiny speck in the space, it seems enormous to us. When we are on it, the mobile goals can seem huge too if you focus on fixing it to things where you can live, can make a big difference. And there are 3 ways you can help. You can innovate, campaign, and invent. So, humanity finds itself at perhaps the most exciting and challenging juncture in its history. And when our early ancestors traded their nomadic ways for fixed addresses, they presumably and initially allowed their waste products to fall wherever they were produced. So, and they took a game for food and trees for energy, and later they realized that they needed to manage how they used these natural resources because they were getting sick from drinking polluted water and water that was polluted by their own waste and the local food and energy resources and rapidly being depleted. And as the global population grew, it became obvious that management of resources at the regional levels was also necessary. And as the quality of our air and the water around any given region is influenced by the actions in neighboring regions and climate and other impacts of human activity that can be seen at the planetary level and have now made us realize that there is a need to manage our use of resources at the global level. So the UN 2030 agenda, as you know, it's pretty important. A word of universal respect for human rights, human dignity, and the rule of law, justice, equality, non-discrimination, and it's grounded in the Universal Declaration on Human Rights and international human rights treats that and emphasize the responsibilities of all states to respect, protect, promote human rights. And there is a strong emphasis on the empowerment of women and of vulnerable groups such as children, young people, and persons with disabilities and older persons and refugees, internationally displaced persons and migrants. And the agenda is definitely Sustainable Development Goals, and their 169 targets aim at eradicating poverty in all forms and seek to realize the human rights of all and achieve gender equality. And last September, a group of the world's biggest companies like Google launched a mayor awareness campaign and led by Project Everyone to show their support for an action towards achieving the global goals for sustainable development. A plan adopted by UN member states in 2015 to end poverty, conquer inequality, and tackle the climate crisis by 2030. The activation is part of Global Goals Week, an annual event to mark the anniversary of the global goals during the UN General Assembly. So, which means like so many companies are taking part of the world's to-do list campaign, and they're sharing their actions and also taking the contribution to the achievements of particular goals. The list stating what is on their to-do list for their near future. For example, Google launched Impact Challenge for Women and Girls with $25 million fund to create pathways for women and girls to thrive, aligned with Goal 5, which is a gender equality. And we want to support organizations helping women, girls, and turn their economic potential into power. So, what are those goals? Sustainable goals, right? And also known as global goals. Were adopted by the United Nations in 2015 as a universal call to action, end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure by the 2030 all people enjoy peace and prosperity. And the 17 SDGs are integrated They recognize that action in one area will affect outcomes in others, and that development must balance social, economic, and environmental and sustainability. And countries have committed to prioritize progress for those who are furthest behind. And the SDGs are designed to end poverty, hunger, AIDS, discrimination against women and girls. And the creativity, know how, technology that you have, and the financial resources from all of the societies necessary to achieve those SDGs in every context. So let's make it a bit, let me put you a 17 SDGs in a theme so you can understand it much easier. At the heart of 2030, which is super close, right? Agenda are five critical dimensions. You can just separate it into five parts, okay, to understand it better. And one of them is people, and the other one is planet, and the next one is prosperity, and the other one is peace and the partnerships. So, which means like the 5 P's, right? So, the goals and targets will stimulate action over the next 8 years in areas of critical importance for humanity and the planet, which means us, like it's important for all of us. And when we just look at the people part, we are determined to end poverty and hunger in all their forms and dimensions, and to ensure that all human beings can fulfill their potential in dignity and equality and in a healthy environment. And you can see that, like the first 5 SDGs are included in the people part, right? And let's go to the planet. And we are determined to protect the planet from degradation, including through sustainable consumption and production, sustainable managing its natural resources, and taking urgent action on climate change so that it can support that need of the present and the future generations. So the prosperity part, which is a 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, we are determined to ensure that all human beings can enjoy prosperous and fulfilling lives, that economic, social, and technological progress occurs in harmony with nature. And when we go to the peace part, definitely the 16, SDG number 16, we are determined to foster peaceful, just and inclusive societies which are free from fear and violence. That can be no sustainable development without peace, and no peace without sustainable development. And the last one is definitely the partnerships. And we are determined to mobilize the means required to implement this agenda through our revitalized global partnerships for sustainable development, based on a spirit of strengthened global solidarity, focused in particular on the needs of the poorest and the most vulnerable, with the participation of all countries, all stakeholders, and all people. So, I have a question for you. Which is the most important SDG for you? Please share with me on the chat. I'm a bit curious about your favorite SDG, and maybe you can develop your solution with this SDG. So please just put it on the chat. Oh, Erika says good health and well-being. So, probably now you're also asking for it. You're also have some questions on your mind. So, Merve, how to take action for the sustainable development goals? Tell us what to do. What is next? What should we do now, right? Now, I'll give you some key recommendations to know how to take action immediately for the sustainable development goals. The first one is going to be about be the change campaign from UN, and the other one is going to be about the lazy person's guide to saving the world. And also, I'm going to talk about the one video from UN. And also, the next one is going to be about definitely the solution challenge. So let's start. The Be the Change initiative provides an opportunity for all of us to better walk the talk when it comes to the SDGs. This initiative guides to encourage us to live more sustainable at work, at home, at the universities, by changing our consumption patterns and using active transport such as cycling and buying local foods. Everyone is welcome to participate. Every little step helps. And inform your family, your friends, your community about simple actions they can take in their daily lives. An easy way to start being the change is to look at the UN's Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World to get inspired to live sustainable every day. You can just find those things at the UN's website. Let's talk about UN's Lazy Person's Guide to Saving the World. So, end extreme poverty, fight inequality and injustice, fix climate change. Wow, the sustainable development goals are important, right? So, world-changing objectives that will require cooperation among governments, international organizations, world leaders, and it seems impossible that take the average person can make an impact. Should you just give up because of that? No. And change starts with you. Seriously. And every human on the earth, even the most indifferent, laziest person among us, is part of the solution, fortunately. And there are some super easy things we can adopt into our routines that if we do it, we can make a big differences. And actually, they created some kind of a gamification, and I love this one. From level 1, they're starting with the sofa superstar, and the level 2 is a household hero, and level 3 is about neighborhood nice guy, and the level 4 is an exceptional employee. It lists things we can do and will make a difference. You like playing games? So here is your game. From level 1, as a sofa superstar, things you can do from your couch. Something like you can save electricity, plug in appliances into a power strip and turning them off and completely when not in use, including your computer. And that's it. So, and you know what is level 2? Things you can do at home. So, which we call them a household hero, okay? So what you can do if you want to be in the level 2, then you can just take short showers, and bathtubs require gallons more water than 5 to 10 minutes shower. So how about level 3? How it sounds for you? Things you can do outside your house, how we can call you like, neighborhood nice guy. And you can donate what you don't use, and local charities will give your gently used clothes, books, furniture a new life. And the level 4 is definitely things you can do at work and university. And we call those people, like the leveler people, is like an exceptional employee. So if you have a fruit or snack that you don't want to throw it out, give it away to someone who needs and is asking for help. And that's it. That's it for you. And you know what? You have some software development skills. So you can make those levels into your apps maybe. So you can start with an exceptional employee or starting a design a neighborhood nice guy. Just an idea. So the second recommendation for you to understand how to take action for SDGs is definitely watching Nations United, Urgent Solutions for Urgent Times. I can hear some words like, oh, it was my homework. I remember that from the university. Yeah, they told us, just watch this one. Yeah, because it's incredible, right? And which sets out what must be done to tackle the world's biggest issues, from COVID to poverty, inequality, gender discrimination, climate change, justice, and human rights. The broadcast will also mark the UN's 75th anniversary and as well as the 5th anniversary of the Sustainable Development Goals. So just watch it. You'll see so many famous people in this movie. You'll love it. So, and the last but not the least recommendation is definitely exactly attending Solution Challenge 2022. If you haven't registered yet, you can see the link. Please do it now, okay? And start taking action for a better world with your superpowers. And don't forget to check out the last year's winners project demo videos and also blog posts on the Google Developers YouTube channels and also blogs. And definitely, please don't forget to check out the impact criteria. It works a lot more than you think, right? So now you have better understanding for sustainable development goals than before, and hope it will be clearly explained which specific SDG targets the entry you are solving for. Thanks a lot for listening. And let's listen Kyle about how to develop our projects with Google technologies, and looking forward to see what you all build. I'm super excited to see your projects. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks so much, Merve. That was awesome. And Merve has done so much in her region, and it's been really inspiring to see the incubation program that you have out there. And a lot of the Google Developer Student Clubs have been running really cool hackathons out there as well around the SDGs and the different categories. So that's been super cool. But thank you. I hope you're all inspired to learn more about the sustainable development goals, and really excited to see which one you choose and what you build. So thank you so much, Merve. And now we're going to call up Kyle, and he's going to be talking about Google products. So how does that fit into the mix? How do you combine them? What are they? A little bit of a summary of each one. I'd also love to learn a bit more about each one. I need to brush up on my own technical skills. So we're going to pass it over to Kyle to share a bit more. So over to you,
Awesome.
Kyle.
Thank you for having me. Hopefully, let me. I'm
Yeah, we're
still trying to get
excited
my
to have you.
slides out.
Yeah, so Komal and I worked closely with Kyle. He was the regional lead for Google Developer Student Clubs in North America. So yeah, so excited to hear more about Google products. We'll pass it over to you, Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and it's great to see both of you again. It's been a minute, but very excited to chat about Google products and with all the students out there. So thank you again for having me. And I am Kyle Paul. As Erica was mentioning, I was a regional lead for North America, and now I am on a new team here within Google, focusing on building communities with engineers inside of Google. So it's a very fun, exciting new project. But I was so excited to accept the invitation to come back and speak with all of you out there on your Google Developer Student Clubs and Solution Challenge, because I know I worked on this many years with Erica and Komal. So I'm very excited to come back and talk about Google products and how to help all of you achieve your goals with these projects. So first off, I want to kick off and say thank you to all of you for being a part of the community, for being active, wanting to learn, and just being passionate about technology and wanting to help your community, because that's really what the Solution Challenge is about. And as Merve was talking about as well, you're really wanting, the goal of this is to help drive an impact to your community, whatever your community is, whether that's your school, your city, your country, global, as Merve was talking about. I mean, we're just planet Earth. So if you want to solve problems here on planet Earth, that's great. If you want to solve things on Mars, that's great too. But thank you to all of you for being a part of this. And I'm so excited, and we're all very excited to see what all of you build. So with that, my agenda that I'm going to be covering here today is I'm going to walk through a very simple project outline, because I've seen a lot of questions and a lot of comments coming through the chat. So it kind of helped reassure me how I put all of this together. So in your project outline, there's a lot more resources out there, but I'm going to talk about how to really set something up to achieve your goals for this solutions challenge. And then I'm going to spend a lot more time not doing a deep dive, but I'm going to talk about many of the Google products, Google developer products that we have available that in the past years, many students have built amazing projects on top of. So I want to talk about different ways that you can utilize our different developer products. And then I'm going to switch over to sample architecture. So it's very high level, but how you can combine these different Google technologies and Google products together to make your project. And then I'm going to double down on the technology criteria. I know Erica and Komal talked about it a little bit, but we're going to dive into a little bit more to the technology criteria to make sure to drive that home a little bit more, so that way you understand the full scope on what you need. Because I did see a lot of questions in the Q&A and in the chat about technology and Google products. So hopefully, we'll cover all of that. If you still have questions, please go ahead and ask them in the Q&A, and we'll try and answer those at the end of this talk. Or we do have some people helping us backstage that are answering questions as we go as well. So please continue to ask your questions. Love seeing them come through. They are very helpful to us. So with that, as far as project planning, this is the 4 easy steps to success, right? So this is very, very high level, but first off, you need to come up with your idea. And with your idea, I've seen many questions in the chat pop up about this. You have to find your team. So your team is, maximum of 4, but more than 1. So you have to create a team of other students from your university, joining universities, and you have to identify a problem to solve. And this is where you either start with picking the UN goal that you want to solve for. If you want to solve for access to technology or infrastructure, something to do with that, or education, pick a goal, and then how are you going to solve for that issue in your community? And the thing to remember here is, as all of you are ideating around this, there are no wrong answers. Like, there's no, oh, that's a bad idea. In this phase of your project planning, there are no bad ideas. Just throwing everything at the wall, and then you want to see what sticks. And then once you've figured out, all right, here's all of our ideas that we want to focus on, and the UN goal or goals, because you can have it apply to more than one goal, but make sure you're at least approaching one UN goal and you're doing that one very well. So you're doing at least one, but you can have more. From this idea phase, that's when you move to the prototype phase. So prototyping, you haven't really started to code yet, but in the prototype phase, this is where you're designing your project on paper. You are, doing wire diagrams, wireframing, and testing it with individuals like other fellow students, your fellow teammates, your family members. Like, hey, if we had an app, let's say you're building a mobile app. If it did this, how would you expect it to work? So that's basically, this is your feedback phase during the prototype. You're trying to get, you bounce your ideas off of other folks in your community to validate and test your theory. Like, is this a problem? Is this a solution that we need to solve? Because if others in your community don't necessarily see it as something that is highly important, then that's necessarily not going to drive home a lot of success. You want to find something that is going to be impactful to your community. So what is something that resonates with your local community? And so this is where you're prototyping some of these ideas. But definitely try to do it on paper a little bit first before you start to do any code. Once you've tested and validated your idea in the prototyping phase, this is where you move on to build and test. From the build and test area, this is where you then pick your tech stack. So if you're going to be building on Google Cloud and you want to have a big project hosted on Google Cloud, or you're going to build an Android app, or you're going to build a Flutter app, there's lots of different tools, but you figure out what your tech stack is at this point, and this is when you start to code. And when you're building and testing your code, and remember to test, don't just build it. So as you're testing out your code, this is where you want to make sure that you're staying true to your idea and your prototype, because there are lots of, in the industry, we call it scope creep. This is when, like, oh, this would be cool to add this. It'd be very awesome to add this. And you want to make sure that you are, not intertwining too many things, because then you'll never finish. You'll never get to a good point to submit your project. So you want to make sure whatever you're set out to do, you do that well, and then you can add on features later. So if let's say you're building an application to take photos of crops to test, if the crop is healthy, using machine learning on the image recognition, you can test to see if the crop is healthy or not. From there, you don't want to add in a chat feature. You don't want to focus too much on the chat feature where, individuals can be chatting back and forth, because then you're losing sight of what the primary goal of the project is. So you want to make sure it does the image recognition well, and then you can add on a chat feature later, for example. So that's the key thing to remember in the build and test phase. And then when you deploy, that's when you submit your project. But as one thing, those of us in the software and technology world, a project is never fully done. So even though you are submitting your project on March 31st or before March 31st, March 31st is just the deadline. But as long as you are submitting your project, one of the key things to remember, and Merve covered it as well, is make sure that you have a future goal for this. So when you submit your project, it's not like turning in an assignment in your class. It's, when you turn in your project for the solutions challenge, we want to see, is there a future for this? Are they going to keep working on this? Is there an intent to continue to work on this project? These are things to keep in mind, that it's okay not to have it fully complete. What it should do is it should do what you set out to do. It doesn't matter if the chat feature hasn't been added yet, but if you, in your submission process, the submission form, if you state that, hey, we plan to do this and this and this in the future with our application, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to hear. So make sure to have that. It's okay not to have everything 100% done with your project. So keep that in mind. Cool. And then now for a product overview. There's a lot of products listed here, so hopefully you stay up with me on this. But you don't have to include all of these in your project. I just happen to, because this is my slide deck. But here's all the different products I'm going to be diving into a little bit. It's not a deep dive, but we're just going to be talking about each one of these in a little bit of detail on why these are good choices for your projects. So to kick off with, we have TensorFlow. TensorFlow, it's a very beginner-friendly platform. It is also super advanced. So if you haven't used TensorFlow yet, it's very easy to get started with. But if you have been using TensorFlow, you know how powerful it is. There's a lot of cool things that you could do with machine learning, deploying your ML models, creating end-to-end pipelines. There's those of you who are like, well, I don't really know machine learning. I don't know Python. I don't know Go. That's okay. There's still TensorFlow JS for JavaScript. So you can apply TensorFlow to your websites. There's also TF Lite, which is what you can incorporate to your Flutter and Android projects. So you can incorporate machine learning into your project still. And so it's very flexible. We have many different learning resources available. I have a link here on the screen, but there are lots of other resources out there. There's a lot of different learning paths that hopefully, if you're part of a Google Developer Student Club, you've been seeing a lot of stuff out there on learning TensorFlow. But here's where to get started on learning TensorFlow. Next up, this should be a very familiar product to all of you out there, Google Cloud. The one big reason to choose it is global infrastructure and its sustainability. This has everything you need to build and scale your project out there securely. And the other thing why I think this is a good choice to include with your Solutions Challenge project, since we are focusing on the UN sustainability goals, Google Cloud is the only major cloud provider that runs on 100% renewable energy. So you can also use that as part of your methodology for why you chose Google Cloud and how you're incorporating Google Cloud. Your project running on Google Cloud is running on renewable energy. So that's another great reason to pick Google Cloud. On top of it, there's there's too many to list, but within Google Cloud, there's over 100 different products to pick from. There's different kinds of databases. So you have SQL style databases, you have non-SQL. There's serverless functionality with like App Engine, for example. There's cloud machine learning built in. You can do Internet of Things projects, IoT projects. There's different operations. There's tons of different tools that we have available within Google Cloud that you can build on top of. So just Google Cloud is a big umbrella for all the awesome things and tools that we have available. And to learn more about these tools and some training, hopefully all of you have been going through with the different labs that we've had and different sessions through the the Google Developer Student Clubs. So make sure that you've been taking those trainings. There's also the trainings I have listed here. I believe, and Eric and Komal can come back on, help later, but hopefully there's other extra training materials available for Google Cloud as well. The other thing is there is Google Cloud credit available. So yes, not all products within Google Cloud are free, but there are Google Cloud credits available for your Solutions Challenge project. You do have to sign up to get them, but they're not just awarded to anybody who has a team. You do have to say that you are building on Google Cloud and you'll be issued some credit towards your project. And these can only be used on Solutions Challenge projects. Keep that in mind. And then Firebase. This one is near and dear to my heart as well. I love Firebase. I've been using Firebase for years. All of the tools and infrastructure you need to build web and mobile apps are here. There's free CDN hosting. So it's a global static hosting site that's free. You don't need a paid plan for all of this. It's free web hosting. And it has two different databases. Both are NoSQL. So you have one that's more of a JSON storage. Then you have another one that's document collection style. But they're both real-time databases. So as you're interacting, your users are interacting with each other within your app, it's real time. So it's like a chat, messaging back and forth in real time, or as somebody's uploading a photo without refreshing the screen, somebody sees it in real time. There's also one of our best authentication services. So if you use Firebase authentication in your project, you don't have to use the rest of Firebase, but if you need your users to be able to log in and to secure their information within the project that you create, Firebase authentication is my primary choice that I always go to whenever I'm building a project that needs a login. Firebase authentication is what I dive into first. It's so easy to add, so easy to implement, and it's backed on top of Google's secure login part. It's not just Google logins that you can use either. You can also do your Apple login. There's Windows Live logins that you can add in there. Facebook, Twitter. It has the whole gambit. That's a part of it. So that's a part of it as well. There is Firebase machine learning, which is built on top of TensorFlow, but it's part of Firebase that you can add into your projects as well. There's a lot in here, but if you want to learn more about Firebase, what you can do with Firebase, I have the link here for additional learning resources where you can learn how to build web projects, Android projects, Flutter projects, you name it. There's a lot of different ways and flexibility that you can do with Firebase. So make sure to check this out as well. Another project that I'm a big fan of is Progressive Web Apps, PWAs for short. So this is a web application that acts like a mobile app on your device. So in areas where you have limited connectivity or limited storage on your phones, for example. So let's say one of the things that people think a lot about is how many apps can I have on my phone? Because if I take too many pictures, I'm going to have to remove some apps, yada, yada. With a PWA, it's so small, but acts like a real app. You don't have to worry about storage space. You can have 1,000 photos on your phone and not have to worry about, users removing your app because you designed it as a PWA. But the other nice, amazing thing about PWAs is if they're not on a phone, if they're on a computer like I am right now, it acts like a regular website. It doesn't have to be an app, but it's the same exact code base. So it's a single code base that builds you a website, but then also acts like an app on the phone. You have the native capabilities where you can utilize the camera, Bluetooth. There's a lot of different functionalities that you can do with the PWA. And the awesome selling point with a PWA is, since it is ultimately a web app, you have an unlimited reach. So if anybody can access the internet, they have access to your PWA. Whereas if you only build an Android app, only Android devices can access your app. If you only build an iOS app, only users of iOS can use your app. If you build a PWA and you are familiar with web technologies, anybody in the world, desktop, mobile, tablet, you name it, anybody can access your app as long as they have access to the internet to start the use. PWAs also have offline capabilities. You have to build that in, but once they've accessed your PWA, they can go offline and use that. And then I do have a few learning resources there, web.dev/learn/PWA, to learn more about progressive web apps and that whole technology and how you can use it. So it's very cool on how to use all of this. Next up, Android. Android, you're reaching 2.5 billion devices when you build an Android app. So, and this is including your phones, watches, TVs, cars. So, however you're wanting to impact your local community, if Android is the predominant operating system in your community, that's a perfect one to go for here. If you're building on Android, there's building a native app does give you some extra capabilities. It is, since it is a native app, you do get that high quality native app feel. You can optimize for not that we're all building games for the Solutions Challenge project, but if you were to build some kind of game, when you're building a native app, this is where going native gives you the optimization for gaming, finance tools, productivity. So there are certain optimizations within native Android that you get, but you can do a lot of this with PWA still, for example. Also with Android, there's a dedicated, the Google Play Store, where you can have, once you've launched your application, you can have it show up on the Google Play Store. So that way anybody in the world can find it and download it. It is not a requirement to have it in the Play Store for the Solutions Challenge, but it is an option for you when you do actually publicly launch your Android app. So you don't have to for the Solutions Challenge, just to make sure that that's clear. You don't have to put it in the Google Play Store for it to be part of the Solutions Challenge. If you want to learn more about Android and how to build your first Android app, if you haven't yet, you can go to developer.android.com/courses. There's a ton of courses there. Hopefully you've been doing the Android study jams as well in your Google Developer Student Clubs and have been learning a lot there. Flutter. Flutter is another amazing product that you have the ability to build and test and deploy beautiful mobile, web, and desktop apps, including embedded apps. And so this is where you take your single code base and you can build an Android and an iOS app at the same time. It does produce native code, but you are doing it from a single code base. You are writing it in Dart, which is a language that Google created a few years back. And Flutter is built on top of the Dart engine, where you're able to, as I said, in that single code base, generate an Android and an iOS native apps from this. It's very powerful, very fun. Web and desktop and embedded apps, they're getting better. I wouldn't say they're 100% yet, and that's my opinion, but not the opinion of Google. That's my opinion, but they are getting there, and you do have the capabilities to output and to all of these different platforms. So that's where Flutter is a great pick, because you can still do a website, you can still do a desktop app, and so it all depends on what you're trying to build. If your focus is on building something that people are only going to be running on their laptops, for example, Flutter is the perfect choice for that, because you can build a desktop app from a single code base and then eventually launch an Android and iOS app from that, and still use the same code, still use the same infrastructure, and still use the same backend tied all together. So that's one great opinion with Flutter. It is stable. It is ready for all of these: web, desktop, embedded. I will say for web, it doesn't meet the latest web technology, so it doesn't have all of the latest web APIs built in. So that's primarily why I say it's not quite there yet for web, but it still makes a great website. It still makes a web app, rather. So it still works. It's still great. It's just not fully capable as it is for mobile apps, in my opinion. That's my opinion. But there's a lot of companies that have developed all of this stuff using Flutter, and they make great products. And you wouldn't even realize that you're using something that was built on Flutter and it's running on your desktop, for example. As I said, multi-platform. It gives you that native app performance and feel. And flutter.dev/learn is where you can learn a lot more about this. I want to ensure that, yes, you can deploy it on all of these. I did see a couple of comments on, it's not mine. That's more my opinion. I do think that for what all of you are building, if you're building something on desktop, it is production ready. If you're building something for web, it is production ready. It just depends on what level you're trying to build something at. So, and then I'm going to go ahead and cover some sample architectures. So I talked a lot about all of these different products and different cool features within these products. So there's the global reach on some of this stuff. There's the cool technical features of some of these products. But how does this all work together? Or how can you build it for your project? Because not like if you were to only say I'm building an Android app, well, with Android you still need something else with it. You can't just build an Android app. So here's like your first example here. So when I was mentioning you're taking a photo of a crop and you're trying to see if the crop is healthy or not, you can back that with TensorFlow. So you have a bunch of images of healthy crops and unhealthy crops that you've trained your model on. And so you have your training images, your TensorFlow model, which knows this is if it sees a picture, it goes, this is a healthy crop or this is an unhealthy crop. And then you take that and you build a mobile app that uses that model using TF Lite to send the images to the model. The model analyzes the image and sends you back labels. From these labels, this is where you can interpret that result on the app to say, oh, your crop looks good, or hey, it needs water, or something like that, whatever labeling that you get back and whatever you've trained it to do. So here's a sample. So it's very high level, no code, just an example. And other things that you can add to this as far as your tech stack, you can add a backend. So you can add like Firebase login to this, or you can add Google Cloud as far as connecting to. You can have Google Cloud IoT that your mobile app connects to an IoT device to say, hey, with your GPS global positioning on this device, here's where the crop is, and how is all of this set up. So there's lots more you can add to it. Again, this is just a very rudimentary sample. But we're getting a little bit more complex here, where we build a mobile app in Flutter. So this is where, by mobile app, I'm saying this is not just an Android app. So in this previous one, this was only an Android app. In this one, we're using Flutter. So the mobile app here is both Android and iOS. So you have the same code base. You output an Android and an iOS app. The database you're using is Cloud Firestore. You're using Firebase authentication to allow your users to log in and out. And you're using Cloud Functions to run other tasks. So with Firebase Cloud Functions, it allows you to run backend tasks asynchronously. So let's say whenever your user logs in for the first time, it sends them a welcome email, and you could do that with a Cloud Function. And I did see a question a while back about use of third-party tools and libraries. This is where if you're building it on Firebase and Flutter, but then you can connect to a third-party tool such as MailChimp, for example, to send these emails. So there's lots of, or SendGrid. There's lots of other third-party tools that integrate very seamlessly to through these Cloud Functions. So it's a lot of cool things that you can do together here. And so this is just a mobile app with Firebase as the back end. And then our sample app here is where we're using a progressive web app. So this is, as you can see, my icon changed a little bit here. So where it's a laptop and a mobile phone. So it's a web app that's working on a laptop and mobile devices. It's all working together. It's built on top of Firebase. Pardon me. Here you're also using Firebase authentication to allow your users to log in and out. And it's the same Firebase authentication between your mobile users and your web users. It's also using Cloud Firestore, which is a document collection style database that's real time. also using Cloud Functions and Firebase hosting. So your PWA is actually hosted on Firebase hosting. So you're not having to launch it in any stores. It's using the free hosting available from Firebase. But what we are tying to, we're tying to Google Cloud Vision API. So this is where you can tie 3 different Google technologies together. And that's using Google Cloud Functions to tie into the Google Cloud Vision API. And so this is where, let's say we're building a similar tool to the crop health detection that I had earlier, where, but you're built a web app instead of a native app. And you're using the Cloud Vision API, you're using other TensorFlow, you're using a lot of different things together to tie into here. So these are just very high level sample applications that you can just to show you how you can tie a lot of this stuff together. There's many, many more iterations of how all these things can combine. These were just, again, a few samples. You don't have to copy any of these. These are just a few samples of how to tie this stuff together. And then if you do have more questions, I'm more than happy to, we do have a Q&A section after this. I'm going to continue to answer questions here. But the one thing I want to double down on is the technology criteria. This is worth 40 of the 100 points for your entire Solutions Challenge project. I have 2 of the bullet points, 2 of the 4 that I've included here that I want to make sure to double click on and ensure that all of you hear this clearly. So as we've been talking about, and as I've been sharing, like all of these different Google developer products that are available, there's all these cool resources that you have at your fingertips. Yes, you do have to use a Google developer product as part of your project. And not only do you have to use one, you have to explain why did you pick that one. What, you don't say because Kyle told me to. You can say, why is this the best for your project? Why did you pick Android over Flutter, or why did you pick Flutter over PWAs? They're both single code bases, but why did you pick Flutter over PWA? We want to hear that, and we want to why did you choose this tech stack? So make sure you are including that and you're thinking about that. So remember that build and test phase that I talked about at the beginning of the talk. This is where, why did we pick this tech stack? You want to make sure that you keep that theme as you continue to build it out. You make sure that it's per your project. Everybody is aligned. Why did we pick it? Then also, we do ask that, Erica and will have to confirm for me here, but we have asked in the past that you do share your projects via GitHub. So all of your projects should be, you don't have to have it in a public repository. You can share it in a private repository, just as long as we have access to it. But in that project, when you share that project with us in your README file, you have to make sure that you include guidance on how to run your code. So we want to make sure that anybody with little to no technology experience. So if you have an Android app, for example, you shared your GitHub code with us, we want you to list out steps. How do we need to set up your application in order to test it and run it? So we have to install Android Studio. If there's a particular version or an API that we need those steps listed in your README file. So if you need to have, here's the SDK from Android that needs to be selected in order for my project to run. If you have anything special like that, that needs to be set up in order for us to run your project, make sure that that's included. These are different things. So like with PWA, you don't have to install anything necessarily, but if there's any special things, like you need to set up Firebase, for example, you need to start your Firebase CLI, you need to have these things in the command line interface, you need to have these things installed in order for your project to be cloned and for us to replicate your project. So these are different guidances that we need. It's not that we don't know how to do it. We want to see that you know how to do it and how to share this back out there as a team effectively. And then on the second bullet point, has the team made effective product and technical decisions for their solution? So let's say that you're just a huge fan of PWAs like I am, And, but if there's no technical reason for you to pick a PWA over, let's say, Flutter would have been a much better choice for you to build your app in. We want to see, did you make that effective product and technical decision during that build out of your solution? So make sure that you're diving in and explaining why PWAs were better than Flutter in this situation, or why was Flutter? Why did we, even though we wanted to build a PWA, we chose Flutter because it does this better. These are the things that we want to see in this bullet point. So make sure you're spending time on these two bullet. I mean, make sure you're covering all the bullet points, but these are the two things around the technology criteria that I wanted to double down heavy on, that we need you to really be, explain yourself, why you made these decisions for your solutions challenge project. So hopefully that didn't scare you, but we just wanted to reiterate why it's important to make these decisions, because what this also teaches you for the future. There are, as you get into tech, because this was a question Komal asked in the very beginning, why do you want a job in tech? These are types of questions that we get all the time in technology. Why did we pick this? Why is this the best solution to move forward with? We do this all the time in our teams, while we aren't publicly saying like, hey, we chose this to build this because this. These are things that we answer internally on your different software engineering teams. Why are we doing it this way? So that way everybody's on the same page, everybody understands why we made those decisions. So that way, if we look back, why, you hear these stories about, hey, who decided to do this? Why are we building it this way? You can go back and look, like, here's why we intended to go this route using this technology. So these are things that will help you in the real world when you're working on technology projects. So hopefully all of this was very helpful and gave you a nice dive in. I wanted to thank all of you. Let's go build some solutions. I'm very excited to see what all of you build. Hopefully there's a lot out here for all of you to do. I want to welcome Eric and Komal back. There's a lot of fun things for all of us to build together. So let's go build.
Awesome.
Hey, Erica.
Hi. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that was great. It was really cool.
Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, we always love having you. This was awesome. And we'll welcome back Komal and Merve. And so while they're joining, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. We're gonna be doing a Q&A. Just for a little bit, then we really want to focus the time on networking. The networking tables are going to be open for 1 hour. So we'll try to wrap up here pretty soon, ideally the next 10 minutes, because we want you to get to the networking tables. So it's time for Q&A. You can ask questions in the chat. Just go to Q&A and ask the questions there on the right side while you add your questions. Wanted to remind you to register for the solution challenge. Go to this link, register. I'm seeing some questions about this. Registering is just for each individual, just to let us know you're going to take part in the competition so that we can invite you to events and send you some resources through email. It's not required, but we definitely recommend that. Separate from this, you submit your project between March 15th and March 31st. And there's actually no deadline to registering, but we encourage you to do it, the sooner the better, just so that you can start getting some of the resources that we're going to be sending to folks who register. Next up, wanted to share some FAQs that we're seeing in the chat as well. Can my solution solve a problem outside of the scope of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals? We actually require that you do solve for one or more of the 17 SDGs. There was another question about, can I combine and do more than one SDG? Yes, you can. You can definitely have more than one. Can one student or team submit multiple submissions? So basically, each person should only work on one project and submit that one project. Why? We really want you to stay focused and really, form a team. There's a lot of teamwork and leadership skills that you're going to be able to gain through that process. but you'll just be able to put more effort and, get user feedback. We really would love for you to focus. After the competition, definitely you can join other projects, but one project per person. Can I still participate in the solution challenge even if there's no developer student club at my university? Yes, you can. But you do have to join a Google Developer Student Club near you. And basically, my teammates will add the GDSC event platform in there. You can do a search in there for club near you. You can join, and I encourage you to reach out to the GDSC lead of that club and ask a bit more about how you can pair up with another student at that university. We do ask that you join up with at least one student who's registered, who goes to that university, and we encourage you to be part of that community. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm just going to end on this one, and folks, we'll keep looking at the Q&A for some questions. But yeah, with social distancing and everything with COVID, we definitely take that into consideration. And this is top of mind for us. I know that'll impact your ability to meet as a team, but definitely you can do everything virtually. And you can get user feedback virtually through video calls. But we definitely keep that in mind. So I'm going to stop there. So Kyle, Komal, and Merve, are there any questions that you're seeing or anything that you wanted to address that maybe we missed?
I do see one about do we have to license our code? And that's a great question. We do not require that it's licensed, but it is encouraged to continue to have it licensed in some format. It's not because we are requiring it, it's what's best for you. And in most cases, a lot of your projects, if you're doing an open source licensing, there are, I want to say, if memory serves, there's like 29 different types of open source licenses out there. So we can't recommend which one to use, but find one that best applies to your project if you want to use an open source license. And this is where, if you're doing how you're sharing your code back with us, if you haven't determined your license yet, or you are wanting to commercialize it, that's where doing a private GitHub repo is best. But if you want to share your code, you want this code part of your project just to help your code impact others out there, that's where it is encouraged to share your code publicly. And you can use different open source licenses, such as the question, I'm not saying I recommend it, but one that's available out there is the MIT license. That is a very popular one.
Awesome. Thanks, Kyle. And I do see the question about, can I participate individually as an individual? Yes, you can. One person can, and you can have a team of up to 4 people. But we do encourage you to join a team of, up to 4. It's awesome to be a part of a team, people with different skills. I think you can, the more people that you have diversity of opinion, different skills. And I think that combined can really build a cool project. So yes, it's 1 to 4, but we do encourage you to join up with some others.
So I can answer one question
Sure.
from Joe. It was like somewhere here. So I lost it now. I don't know. Oops, here. Yeah. He was asking about like it should be about some kind of a local problem, or can I just make it a global goal? Like definitely you can just find a solution for the local problem, but also like global goals like includes like lots of like local goals. So that's why if you can find a specific solution for your local problem, then probably it will be helping to the global goals. So just make sure to find a problem, like a specific problem to solve for, and afterwards you will probably scale it to other regions. So that's why find a problem which can be scalable for other regions, and you can make it local, start it local, and afterwards you can just go to the global side. And yeah, I think this is the solution for you. Hope this answers, Joe.
Thanks for that. And I know there's some questions about who's eligible. So you do have to be a student, a university student. That includes undergraduate, a graduate student, PhD student. That's fine. I would love to have students in high school. I know someone's a junior in high school. That's so awesome. Unfortunately, for the competition, you do need to be a university student. But I hope that in a couple of years, you join a Google Developer Student Club near you and do apply to be a lead. But for now, this is just for students. Let's see, what are some of the other questions?
I did see two related questions that I can tackle really quick.
Awesome.
One is about, is using Google products mandatory, and another one is about using third party. So they're both kind of related here. So to kind of, two birds, one stone kind of approach. Yes, it is required to use a Google product. Which Google product is up to you. On what best, as I mentioned during my presentation, it's what best suits your solution. So if Google Cloud is the right pick, something from within Google Cloud. If Firebase is better, Firebase is what you pick. There's no one is better than the other. It's what tool best serves your purpose. So yes, you do have to include Google, but that doesn't mean you can't include third parties. So also, as I mentioned in my presentation, you can use MailChimp, you can use SendGrid. Like, these are third party tools and resources that you can apply into your project. It just has to use a Google product for your solution. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, and I see a question. I know this is something that I've seen come up in the past, just around like the scale, similar to what Merve was talking about. Should be solved for something global or locally. I think the one part that I do want to be very specific on, do you solve the problem, right? The scale of the problem is one thing, but like, genuinely, do you identify? I think the competencies that we're trying to build and the skills we're trying to build is, do you identify a challenge that you or others are facing, right? An area of friction. And does the solution that you build address that friction, right? And is that evident through your application and through your submission and through your demo, right? So very simply, there's a problem. Does what you build address that, right? And do you tell that story in a clear, concise way so that anyone else reading it can say, yes, I see the problem, I see the solution, it's connected. Now, that scale of that problem is going to vary, right? Because you really can't say that the problems being faced in New York are the same that are faced in Lagos in Nigeria or in Bogota in Colombia, right? It's going to look and feel different from a major university to a smaller university. So we've kind of thought about that as we designed the challenge. But just think about, what is the problem? How is this being addressed? And how am I kind of using technology to do that, but also telling that story in a clear, concise way?
That's a great point. I'm also seeing some questions about, is this recorded? Yes, today is recorded. It will be on YouTube. We're going to share one reason why you should register. We will send you an email with this recording afterwards. So yes, definitely. Other questions? Oh, about cloud credits. Kyle did mention this earlier, but yes, we do have cloud credits, $50 credits for teams, one per team. And we'll be reaching out to folks who register and intend to use cloud. So that's another reason to make sure that you register. But yes, we do have cloud credits. Awesome. And I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, thanks to everyone who's answering people's questions. Joshua Ahimaz, awesome. Thanks for answering some folks' questions. And I'm seeing some others sharing some incredible, good words of inspiration. Vivek, cheer up. I just made a Hello World program. Now I can code anything. Awesome. I love that. That's super cool. I did see a question in here. I'm new to coding. I'm a beginner. Can I still take part, or what can my role be? Does someone want to answer that question?
So I can share some thoughts, but I feel like Kyle and Merve may have a lot of perspective on this. From an outsider point of view, right? I think the first time that we did the solution challenge, we saw a ton of people that were kind of like in that 0 to 1 stage in their journey, right? They were really passionate, really interested, and they wanted to engage. So we saw a ton of really cool ideas, but they kind of got stuck in that like technology, like actually bringing it to the next level and like stage. So, and I think this is where the team comes into play. Personally, and I'm very curious about how Kyle and Merve feel about this. I think the ability to go from not knowing anything to knowing how to code to being able to build a solution is actually not tremendously hard, right? But there's a lot of ambiguity in that early stage. And I think an activity like the solution challenge is a really great place to kind of overcome those humps. And I've seen a lot of stories where people have gone from not knowing anything to knowing a lot and being actually able to build their app. So I'm going to pause there because I'm not the expert in this, but I do want to kind of get Kyle and Merve's thoughts on this.
I can add something. Like as a former developer, probably I have some experiences about this. Like I joined the robotic camp and I had no idea about coding, and afterwards I need to learn coding in a week, and afterwards I learned how to code in Python, and then I built a line following robot, and it was a great moment. But like for the solution challenge perspective, last year we hosted around 5 or 6 hackathons, and before the hackathons we got great feedbacks from the students. We don't have an idea about the hackathons and also developing Google technology. But I don't know, we want to just join because we saw the pictures and the Google colors and it's super exciting. So we want to make it. And afterwards, they joined us. And for the Flutter hackathon, we had so many newbies and they learned how to code in Dart. And afterwards, they built their Flutter apps quickly, in 48 hours. And we received around 50 projects from this hackathon. So I suggest you to just join those kinds of hackathons, and definitely you can make it quickly because it's the best way to make it. There'll be a team who's gonna support you. They're gonna be your team, so they'll be definitely supporting you. So yeah, just by trying it, try.
Definitely want to just plus one to everything Merve said. Go back and watch that recording 5 times, whatever Merve said. I mean, that's really how to get inspired with these projects. Big plus one on all that. And I want to double down on what she said about hackathons. That is, if you don't have an idea yet, or you don't know what product you want to work on, or let's say you really want to build something in Flutter and you don't know Dart. A hackathon is a great place to start, and you bring your community together. You can have a hackathon around Flutter, and from this hackathon is also where what solutions can we come up with. So hackathons are a great way to, back when I was mentioning the idea phase, the prototyping, this is where you can still play with code early on to figure out I want to use Dart, but I don't know what I want to build yet. And so going through a hackathon is a great place to start on this. So big plus one to what Merve said on that. And as part of your journey, like Komal was saying, even if you, because I've seen in the chat there's a lot of newbies to getting into tech. You're very excited about it and you want to learn, but you don't know where to start. In all of my slides, which yes, the recording and slides will be shared later, I have all those links in there, and these are all started. Like we saw, I already lost his name, but during this, somebody created a hello world while they're watching this. So yeah, learning alongside, building, going through. I mean, this is what get yourself inspired and continue to build on this stuff. There's a lot of awesome stuff in here. So yes, plus one to all of that.
Awesome. Thanks. We'll just take a couple more questions because we do want to get to the networking. One person asked, can multiple projects be submitted for each Google Developer Student Club? Yes, definitely. Multiple projects can be submitted from the same club. It's just one project per person. What are the prizes? I definitely encourage you to take a look at the website. That's pinned at the top, but that's where we have the prizes on that page. There's cash prizes, swag, and more. So definitely encourage you to take a look at the site. Other
I want
questions?
to quickly, so what Erica just answered, just to help clarify, because I've seen a few other questions about this. When Erica means one project per person, that means you can only work on one project. That doesn't mean you as an individual are submitting a project. So for example, let's say the 4 of us, Erica, Merve, Komal, and myself, we're on a team. So all 4 of us are submitting one project. We just can't work on another project from the team Google. So there can be other groups at Team Google, but the 4 of us can only work on one project. So hopefully that helps clear it up, because I've seen a lot of stuff in there in the comments and questions. Just wanted to help clarify that.
Thank you for that. And thanks again to Joshua and Shambhavi. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your names correctly, for also answering the questions in the chat. That's awesome. So as we wrap up, any final questions that you're seeing in here? Maybe Kyle, there was one about, which is easier to set up, Firebase database or cloud database?
Ooh, both. I mean, both are relatively easy, because in the sense they're both the same, unless you mean like a Google Cloud database. It just, as I've mentioned before, it's pick the right tool for the job. So if using a Firebase database, whether that's the real-time database, which is JSON, or if you're using Cloud Firestore, document collection style database, what really is best for your project is kind of up to you, the right tool for the job. And I've seen a couple, along that same lines. Should I pick Flutter or PWA? Should I pick Android or Flutter? I mean, whatever is the best tool for your job. I know I was a little conflicted when I was giving my presentation, because like I have preferences that I like to use, but it's really what is the right tool for the job. Because yes, I've built some Flutter apps that Flutter was the right choice, but then in certain cases, Flutter wasn't the right choice for me, so I used another technology. And so it's whatever's the right technology for the project that you're building.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I think we'll, any final thoughts from all of you, or a final tip, or, any words of encouragement? We'll close out here, but we're going to stay on and continue to answer some of the questions, and we'll jump into networking in just a moment, but wanted to hear if there's any final thoughts from our awesome panel.
If I can say something, I think as I'm just being part of this event and like watching Kyle's talk and watching Merve's talk and Erica sharing her experience. But Erica also, I don't know if most of you know, she's been at Google for 14 years, Erica?
15, man.
15. The amount of experience in this room and of the folks that are leading the solution challenge is tremendous. And the amount of resources available is tremendous. And the one thing that I would say is you're going to get out of it what you put in, right? It's over a longer period of time. There's going to be challenges. There are going to be issues, but there are resources. And I think if there's one thing that I want to leave you with is you're going to get out of it what you put in, right? You choose the amount of commitment, the amount of effort, the amount of perseverance you display. I know there's a lot of challenges. And they're going to look different in different countries, different regions, but use the resources that this team has put together. Because you're going to come out of it with experience. And the truth is, like, at the end of the day, getting a job in tech, in the industry, anywhere, is about the experience, right? Belt and being able to say, I did this, not just, I know about it, I actually did it. And only you can control the amount of effort that you put in. So I'll pause there, but that's my kind of 2 cents that I would love to leave you with.
I love it. Thanks. Kyle or Merve, any final thoughts?
Go ahead, Merve.
Sure. Probably like after today, they'll be realizing, oh, we can do some tiny changing in our lives and we can change a lot of enormous things. So just try to understand and realize the problems around you. And also trying to find a great team for Solution Challenge. And that's why you should join like a lot of networking events and join us for the roundtable, for example, or just join us for all the like global events or your local events and other universities events. Try to just socialize these moments because you have just 3 months and maybe 2 months left. So, and afterwards, like when you found your team at the hackathon or somewhere else, just try to trust them and just build your, projects with them. And don't forget that success is a team sport. So you should be in a great team and you should build your team greatly with this opportunity. And maybe you can continue as a startup, as a social entrepreneur in that. So just dream big and make a bigger impact. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to see like a lot of great solutions this year.
I guess this is the benefit of going last. +1 to what both of them said. Yeah, huge. This is a huge opportunity for all of you to be a part of. As Komal was mentioning, you get out of it what you put into it. So really, if you're looking to get a job in tech, really focusing this is a great opportunity to, even if, because I know we have a few high school students tuning in. So this is something to look forward to as well. Like if you're really interested in tech, these are, you can still play along, but you won't be able to submit anything, but you can still work on Google Project. You can still figure out what you can build something for your community. And as Merve was talking about, there's a lot of entrepreneurial opportunities here, creating startups, or if, you're not necessarily interested in building out a startup, because it is a lot of hard work. I've been there. But from that, like if you want to join the industry and help impact at a great scale at a company like Google, it doesn't have to be Google, but if you want to join, make a large impact, there's a lot of cool opportunities that you can learn that can start from the solutions challenge. So really encourage you to have a lot of fun with this and learn a lot. So very excited to see what all of you build.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. And, the hardest part is just getting started. I encourage you to, move forward, try something. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's all part of that learning process. So I just encourage you to start, and it really helps to have a team. Yes, you can do it on your own, but it's really helpful. You build a lot of team skills. Everything I do at Google is in teams. We're constantly in project teams. I honestly was not part of any project team in college. That would have been helpful because that's everything that we do at Google. So this is part of that experience that will be helpful for your career, to work as a team and also solve some pretty cool topics while you're at it. So thanks so much to the panel. This was awesome. And we do have more left. We are going to be shifting gears to the networking tables. And, before I share that, we do want your feedback. You can take a picture of this QR code. Our teammate will also share this link as well in the chat so that you can share your feedback. I'm going to talk a bit about the networking tables right now. But I just wanted to say thanks again to the panel. I'll let you all hop off. I'll talk about the networking tables and then we'll say goodbye. But yeah, thank you all so much for being awesome speakers, and my co-host Komal. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today.